And here we go. Wow, questions already here. Okay, hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to do a live. What is our subject today, Ryan?
We got the new kettlebell, BJJ kettlebell program.
BJJ Kettlebell program just came out. When did it come out? Last week. Kettlebell program came out last week. That is part of our BJJ series. We went back and we're doing a BJJ series with order and progress. It started out with a two-handed heavy club program, which used to be called mill squat, but I wasn't happy with how the original mill squat was edited and how that was put out. So we shot it better and made it with follow along videos and just made it 90% better. So that was program one. And then we did some position specific training based on injuries that I had had and based on injuries that the guy that I'm working with on that project, Will Safford, had had. Will Safford had a bunch of back injuries. I've had a ton of knee injuries, which lead to back injuries. So we made some BJJ position specific training around that, which means some position that you have to do in BJJ all the time. So going from general physical preparedness to sport specific preparedness to activity specific preparedness. The correct position so that you don't get hurt when people subject you to load in that position. I'm not going to be doing any wrestling for a while. I was in a wrestling match on Thursday and I almost got my head ripped off. But we're going to go back to our BJJ training at some point. The kettlebell program is all about hunter squat. Hunter squat is a position you use in BJJ all the time. I call it hunter squat because it's a position that you use in hunting, both a lot in bow hunting, where you move up to the edge of a field, you keep your spine vertical and you take a knee to lower your profile and you rest and observe the landscape. Military guys run through this position all the time. When they're running with rifles, it's the exact same idea. They come up, they take a knee, but they stay vertical with an ability to move forward. It's in wrestling, it's in gunfighting, it's in hunting. It's a basic human position. So that program is out now. We shot that a couple months ago here in the studio. It should be a fun program. I looked at the edits a while back. I'm super happy with it. So there will be that out now. We're also updating all the existing programs. This is one of the big things that we're going to do this year. We're going to update everything. We're going to bring it back into line with better editing. So when we started, it was just me editing on a laptop in an unpowered cabin off grid, in the middle of a snowstorm. And over time, we've learned a lot more stuff. And you'll notice edits get better. Program edits also get better. But we are going back now and we are redoing the edits for the swing program. If you already have it, you already get it, doesn't matter. And we are found a much, much, much better way to convey the information. So originally the programs had massive PDFs with it. I think the swing program and the clean and press program, I think there were like 200 pages of graphs in the first clean and press program. It has come to my understanding that people don't really want 200 pages of graphs as much. It's still going to be there because I'm going to leave it there because I like it, because the engineer mind loves that. But we're going to go back and we're going to find a way to give people red check marks for completion for weights all the way through all of the specific weights that we have. So for the Mark II kettlebell, which is actually the 6 to 12K, we're going to give people a straight giant checklist inside the app, and then all the way through up to 32K in half K increments. That's the goal. So we're redoing that. We're redoing the edits for it now for swings, for clean and press. We're going to add double kettlebell swings into the swing program with check marks. And we just updated the abs program for everybody doing the abs program, which is currently my favorite program. We just added, in December, we added the 10 minutes. So we added 20 there. And then we just added last week the 3 minutes this week. We added 20 more 3-minute workouts in there. So the ones that people are using the most are the 3, the 4s, and the 5s. And then we have 6 all the way to 10. And then coming into it is also the 11 through 15. There are 100 3-minute workouts, 100 4-minute workouts, and 100 5-minute workouts that are going to go in there. That's already 300 workouts. They all maintain themes, but they are slightly different. The whole goal of this is that it's never the same, so you can't adapt to it. You can't learn to hate it, but they're short enough that you can build consistency, which is the most important thing in fitness, consistency. So instead of a 20-minute ab program and you're doing it for a week and failing, the goal is to get people to do a month of 3 minutes, a month of 4 minutes, a month of 5 minutes, and they build up their movement capacity, and to get them over the course of a year up to 15 minutes of core per day. And then I myself am just started doing 2-a-days again. So I wanted a bunch more 3, 4, and 5-minute workouts, depending on what you're doing that day. So you can come back in and use that as a warm-up for your afternoon session. If you're going to go into CrossFit or an aerial class or BJJ, you could do a 5, a 6, a 7, or an 8-minute workout to warm up before you step on the mat for any of those things, so that you're more activated, more aware, and your spine is turned on. The ones that are probably going to be used the most for people who train a lot are the 5 to the 8-minute workouts. Very similar to CrossFit. And CrossFit, the basic design is an 8-minute warm-up. So we wanted to hit that. 8 minutes of just pure core. We are finding right now that people are doing a lot more of the 3, 4, and 5s. So we're going to fill in those. And then over time, there's going to be several hundred different workouts in the ab program, because I just can't stop designing these things, because every time I get an idea, I design it, we make it, and we make it real, because it's the training that I want to do. So we're doing that. March 29th and 30th, Austin, Texas, teaming up with Summer Huntington. She will be teaching yoga Mace, which is the coolest form of yoga that there is, as far as I can tell, because it's the one that wastes the least amount of time. If you've ever done anything like hot yoga, you know that it's brutal on your mind, because 90% of the class is not as useful as it should be. A lot of yoga practice is meant to be a mental endurance test. So a lot of it's designed to be intentionally awful. Summer Huntington's steel mace vinyasa is pure efficiency. It's pure super science. It's the way that I program. She programs similarly, but she does it for yoga. That class will be held at, it's on it, right? Yeah, it's being held at On It. Great location. If anybody's ever been to On It's world famous gym. Tons of guys train there. The crazy trainer, one of my buddy I know trains there. Super strong, really fun gym. Great lighting, super fantastic equipment, and giant murals on the wall, like street art murals on the wall. I love that place. So I'm happy that we're going to be going back to that. Then in June 4th through the 9th, that's a 6-day seminar training experience. Once again, I'll be doing that with Summer Huntington, and we will be doing that. It is in Eastern Washington, out in the farm country, which is one of my favorite parts of the world. And that will be a 6-day, and that one's going to be the fun one. That one's going to be the hard one. That's, once again, steel mace vinyasa yoga, heavy club swinging, and unchoreographed staff fighting. That is meant to be a life-changing experience. When you show up, no matter what condition you show up in, you will leave different. It's impossible not to leave different. The whole point of the staff training is that it alters the structure of your brain and changes the way your brain works forever. So that is coming up. In the latter half of the year, we will be having a kettlebell seminar, I believe, at Bells of Steel. I don't have the date on that one off the top of my head. I don't think we have a final date on that one yet, but that one's going to be fun as well. That should be in Indianapolis for people in the middle part of the country. And then we are looking for a place to do a seminar on the East Coast. So the New York area or something like that. let's go to questions, and then we will come back and talk about some fun equipment stuff. Oh, fire update. We should do the fire update. I keep getting messages about this. This location here, Art Asylum, is just south of the Eaton Wildlands fires, south of the Pasadena fires. That fire is now finally contained. Fires are popping up all over Southern California for various reasons. But this should lead us into a talk that we're going to start making a video series about. Ryan doesn't like my name. I just want to call it Apocalypse Fitness. He doesn't seem to think that that's a good name. I think it's a great name. Today, this keeps popping up on my feed over and over and over again. Let me see if I can find it. There was a girl who rode a horse out of the fire zone 14 miles. Kana Fedor Wizkiz. I'm not saying that right. A teen girl rode a horse 14 miles out of the fire zone. And this is kind of a great example of what Apocalypse Fitness is. Can you do something like that at the drop of a hat? Fire comes over the hill. She can't get the horse loaded in a trailer. So she jumps on the horse and rides it 14 miles through fire zones in order to get her and the horse to safety. Are you in good enough shape to do that? So I would like to make videos about this. Guess what the answer is? It's kettlebells and clubs in additional cardio. And I am working on that idea right now. That is my second part of the workout today. But a couple of things that I'd like to talk about in that idea coming up. Can you walk 5 miles with stuff in your hands? Right? Apocalypse Fitness 101, right? Can you use an axe and cut a hole in a roof? Apocalypse Fitness 101. Can you ride a horse at the drop of a hat? There's a bunch of things we want to lay out for this idea, and I just want to know if there's more interest in it. Because this is originally what this channel was about. We just never called it that because this channel really came about during COVID, which was just like a really slow moving apocalypse, not a fast moving apocalypse. But we're going to start making video series about that and some other things related to Apocalypse Fitness is, do you have tools, right? Everybody laughed because the power was out here at the warehouse for a while. And we had come back from an event and all the power was out. And I walked in and grabbed everybody a sword with a headlamp on it. And we all sat around the entire night waiting for the fires to see if we had to evacuate. But everybody had a sword and a headlamp, which makes the most entertaining and fun flashlight you can have. So these things have been hanging all over the warehouse for the last couple of years. And when we walked into a pitch black area, no lights anywhere, we could walk right to the wall and everybody had a headlamp and a sword. And we could all sit around and chit chat all night as we watched the fires glow in the distance and pack the truck just in case we had to evacuate. Let's start answering a couple of questions here and we'll come back to equipment. We have some equipment announcements as well. SLDF Gunslinger, frequent commenter. He's doing the program and loving it, the slam ball program. However, he tends to tip over backwards when doing any of the rock bottom squats. Any cues to help you do this? Is this a weak core issue? It is a not having done the program enough core issue. The whole point of the slam ball program is to make you really good at what I call workman squats, rock bottom positions where you're loading and unloading over and over and over again. So the slam ball program, Ryan, will you grab that slam ball for me right there? The slam ball program focuses, for the most part, most men are going to go from, say, 40 to 100 pounds. Common weights will be 40, 50, 60, and 70. Kind of the same weights that we use in kettlebells. A slam ball is just a giant rubber ball that doesn't leak sand. Unlike sandbags. Sandbags tend to leak sand like crazy. I've never had one that doesn't leak sand. Hold on, I can't reach out like that after that wrestling match where I got my neck ripped off. Sandbags leak sand. Like just holding this and picking it up, sand is dusting out of it. Every time you drop it, sand dusts out of it. Slam ball is a super useful program, but it's all about picking up odd objects. It's really close to picking up firewood. If you've ever spent time in the backcountry gathering firewood on unlevel surfaces and 3 feet of snow, it's very much that's what inspired the slam ball program. There are a bunch of rock bottom positions. Rock bottom positions are positions you don't really encounter in the gym much, but if you do something like, I have dust in my nose from the fires, something like grappling of any type, you spend a lot of time absorbing load in rock bottom positions. The better your rock bottom squat is, the better your functional movement is, the better your grappling can be. So hold on, the air here is just filled with ash and everything else. Hopefully it rains today and it'll come out of the air. But right now we're constantly blowing black soot out of our nose. I just did a workout, so yeah, gross. So I think it might be, it's level 2 or level 3. It's rock bottom load and unload in the slam ball program. You get down to the bottom of your squat, you stay there, you pick a weight up, extend your spine, go forward, collapse your spine. This is stuff that they tell you not to do in the gym, but it's stuff that is in every real world activity you do. If you've ever done any type of grappling, then you'll notice it happens all the time. So yeah, it just means you might need to get a lighter weight, or you might need a heavier weight to force you to stay in that position and load and unload. By doing rock bottom load unloads, we call it juicing the hips. You're causing all of the muscles in your hips and your lower back to fire at once in that position, and you're rewriting the brain to tell it that that is a position that it works in. Most people in the modern world can't do rock bottom squats, sometimes called Asian squats, because we sit in chairs all the time. Thus, weak core below 90 degrees, below the height of a chair. Doesn't matter what sport you play. It doesn't matter how old you are. Getting good at the rock bottom position is key. And so you'll see this show up in the training that I do all the time. I'm a lot less concerned with a heavy barbell back squat than I am with a, like say, a 100-pound rock bottom sandbag squat or slam ball squat. And so double kettlebell squats get you lower, single side kettlebell squats get you lower, club squats will get you way, way, way lower. And every time somebody comes to a seminar, doesn't matter who they are, powerlifter, Navy SEAL, stunt performer, mother of 3, everybody gets better at the rock bottom position of their squat. And there's a whole series of drills for that. So you will see in all of my training, rock bottom positions show up over and over and over again. Keep doing the program. One of the things you can do is put your back close to a wall so that when you go down, if you're going to biff it all the way, you don't biff it all the way. Or learn to roll, either one. Heavy club question. Tyson Henry is curious why you did not make your heavy clubs out of bamboo and concrete. You could make them any weight you want. I don't do that because that's insanely hard to do repeatably. Making club, you can. There's plenty of guys who've done it, right? They take a piece of bamboo, they shove it in concrete. The whole point of steel clubs is steel is dense, which means you can get more weight in a much, much smaller space. So whereas a wood 25-pound club is huge, it looks heavy, but it's not heavy. Steel clubs are extremely dense, which means you can actually get them in a small enough pattern that you can swing them. We have some of the Great Lakes Gear Up Monster Clubs, and we have a whole line of those coming out this year, which will go up to, what are they? 64K, which is nuts. I've never heard of anything like it, but we want to do it because it's awesome. We have a line with, Ryan, will you grab one of the Hestus steel clubs off the rack over there, like a 50 or something? The black steel clubs. So we have a bunch of things coming out, but the answer is density. Adex will always be your best use of money for people in the first several years of training because they can adjust by 1.25 pound increments. It starts at 4.5 pounds, but we are making all the way up. If you try to make a 100-pound club out of bamboo and concrete, the bamboo handle won't support the weight of the concrete over time and be repeatable. And B, that's a very large amount of concrete to get in there, and it will damage your floors and all kinds of other things. Steel is better because steel is the best material that has the greatest density, which is the most durable. This is one of the new Hestus steel clubs. I put tape on it so I can identify it quickly in the crowd of steel clubs, right? They're labeled on the backside. This should be the 50. This is the 50, right? And this is the goal that I say that everybody, all men should get to. Women should get to 70% of that, which is 35 pounds for their two-handed club program. We consider that brown belt level. You can make anything you want, but making something indestructible, usually you make it out of steel. Steel just works really well. So the diameter is small so that you can continue to swing it. When you make things out of concrete, they tend to get bigger this way, and it tends to interfere with the back position swing and the front position swing. If you're already really good club swinger, you can work around that. But to ask people who are new to do that doesn't work well. They end up hitting themselves, and then it hurts a lot because the concrete's not nice, and then people don't want to swing clubs anymore. So we don't make it out of bamboo and concrete because we'd have to source a bunch of bamboo, probably from Asia. It's inconsistent in size, shape, and strength, and therefore you couldn't make a good overall product. If you're doing it yourself, sure, do it, have fun. But I make my stuff because I want my stuff to outlast civilization, bar none. These steel clubs that Hestus is making for me will be around for 10,000 years. No problem. Nothing will hurt these things. Side note, Hestus is also making a Cadillac line of clubs. I used to have the only 30, and then Hestus, he's a doctor and a BJJ practitioner, made these. And they are much, much cheaper than my Cadillacs. So there were no 30 pounds originally. This was the 30 I made back in 2015. It cost me $700. The Cadillacs from Hestus are way, way, way less than that, right? $200, $300, right? And they're all repeatable. So we have a bunch of clubs coming out this year because I love clubs. And I think that they're the best answer to a ton of problems. So we have the classic Adex, the Wildman Adex. And we should talk about handle diameter on that. We have the steel clubs, which are really marketed towards like CrossFit guys and military guys because they're impossible to hurt. And BJJ gyms, things like that, because they're pure steel, they're impossible to hurt. They'll outlast civilization. Cadillacs, I call them Cadillacs, for people's personal, usually single arm practice, because it's kind of a Ferrari. It makes it really easy to go up in weight, and there's going to be 2.5 pound jumps for all of the Hestus clubs. And then there are the Great Lakes, Radiant Strength Within monster clubs. So there's going to be Hestus clubs from, what are the low ones on that? 7, 5, 7.5, all the way up to 70. And then the Radiant Strength Within clubs are going to take over as monster clubs for only the truly insane. And they're going to go from 70 pounds to 140 pounds, which is absolutely bonkers. But yeah, we make them out of steel because steel is dense and you can't hurt it. I do have a club. I have a mace over here. And a couple years ago, one of my friends' houses burned down in one of the many, many California fires. And you have a picture. All the kettlebells are there and all the steel clubs are still there. And he gave me one of the steel clubs that went through the fire. The only thing he got back from the fire, all of his worldly possessions gone, were his kettlebells and his clubs. So that's why we make them the way that we make them. because I think that that's a good thing. Bottle Cap Boys, have I ever tried rope flow? I love watching rope flow. I was thinking about putting it on my learning schedule for this year. If anybody knows of a really good, well thought out, structured engineering learning program for that, I would love to know. I think that there used to be a WEC method program. I thought I bought it years ago, and I looked in my, it was an Amazon purchase, and it's not there anymore. So that's the one that I wanted. But is there one? If there's, I think rope flow is cool. I would like to learn rope flow. I haven't done it, but I would like to see a timed learning protocol method for it. I was thinking that I was just going to have to like get a bunch of rope flow programs and spend a couple months taking notes and then turn it into its own learning, turn it into a Wildman Athletica style learning program. If there's already one out there, I'd love to know. Things like rope flow, I love all of these things. I just did sword and staff, which is like the real version of this stuff. So there's a lot of these recreations right now that are really just kung fu. Rope flow is teaching people the same movements that you learn in Shaolin staff with a rope. It's cool. If you did a bunch of staff, then you kind of have filled in a piece of that already. There's a lot of the functional patterns stuff is really just advanced clubbing, but it's also exactly the same as Dao or Chinese single-edged sword or something like this. It's exactly the same. It's just they break it down and they talk about it in a different way. So there's a lot of stuff out there right now. A lot of the stuff with flow after it, the word flow after it, is a recreation of something like Shaolin Kung Fu. If anybody has a good program recommendation, I'd love to know. DeSauron. Sorry guys, I can never pronounce these names. TOI question. Older people, mid-60s, who cannot do ballistics, should they stick to TOI indefinitely? Will progression to ITK include ballistics? Yes. So once again, we're redoing all of the programs, including TOI. We originally had 8 tracks in it, which was a lot of editing. And I don't think it was necessary now that we go back and we look at it. So we are going to redo TOI to make it clearer on how to do it in the app. And we're going to break it down to the baseball bat. Here's my anti-sword fighting baseball bat. In kettlebell, baseball bat, and dumbbell. Those are the ones that people are using the most after we've looked at all the metrics. And then that integrated with the club track. And the club track is specifically designed for this because it goes down to 4.5 pounds. People who are mid-60s, you can do ballistics, right? The question is, do you have an appropriate weight? Ryan, will you? I'm sorry, buddy. I'm killing you. I know you're making you run all over. Will you grab the Mark II off the shelf over there? And grab there's a bottom for the Mark II over there. It's a little tiny adjustable bottom, top shelf. There's 3 of them, back row. You can do ballistics. The question is, do you have the right weights to do ballistics? So if you're doing TOI, we would like you to start doing ballistics by start doing Indian club. The Indian club movements, the heart-shaped circles using these wave chi clubs are ballistics. And then we would like people to get to the point where they're using this. We designed this specifically because I think at least 100 million people in America need this. And it can have a separate bottom, which makes it weigh a gallon of milk. So that will take it down to 8.8 pounds. We would like people to go towards ITK. ITK is not all ballistics. ITK is a lot of basic lifting drills which lead you toward ballistics. So older people can do ballistics. They absolutely should do ballistics. We start them with this and our basic lifting. Then we get them on the club integration track, inside circle, outside circle, and shield cast, which are ballistics. And then we would like people to go into ITK. And then we would like them to go to the lightest weight that they need. They can adjust by the kilogram. And if they have the adjustable bottom, they can make it super duper light. And then they can walk up and run a cycle at 4K, right? 4.5K, 5K, 5.5K, and walk their way all the way up towards 12K, right? I think level 4 and 5 have a basic start, stop, swing in it and a swing in it. So the goal is to get you towards swings. The goal is to get people to the point where they can eventually do a swing program. We've designed every step in the equation because we want people who have been super injured. I myself have been super injured many times in my life. People who are older, people who have been bedridden, all of these things. The way that we get back is by swinging weights to who we want to be and doing what we want to do. You getting to swinging weights is the absolute best path forward. My lisp is coming out. And we have designed all the equipment to accomplish that task. There is a re-edit of ITK coming out. We're going to make it all simpler. And there is a club integration track for ITK as well. The whole point of the club integration track for TOI and ITK, training for overweight and deconditioned individuals, leading into intro to kettlebell, is that you have that kettlebell day followed by a club day, followed by a kettlebell day, followed by a club day. Kettlebells and clubs working on opposite days will forever be your best overall athletic strategy for 99.9% of the population, because clubs move this way, kettlebells move this way, right? They solve each other's problems. So we would like people who cannot do ballistics to eventually get to ballistics. And we will continue to support training for that forever and keep making programs for this. The goal is to get people to do this for 30 minutes a day, and then to move faster, and then to use the heavy club, and then eventually to get to swings, and then from swings to get to clean and press. It doesn't matter if it takes 5 years. You should get better absolutely every workout for that 5 years, and then you can do the next 5 years after that. We want people to get to ballistics. We have designed the training to get people to ballistics, and we have designed the equipment to make sure that it is possible. KD, breath question. At what point in your series of programs do deconditioned individuals generally regain their ability to breathe properly using their diaphragm, obliques, and pelvic floor? Usually after swings. After swings and clean and press and single arm club. So we're always attacking the breathing issue. So in order to create endurance, you have to master 3 things: structure, breathing, and movement. And we're always attacking structure, breathing, and movement, because we treat this exactly the same way that Chinese medical practitioners treat health. Movement practice to fix issues. The difference is we're shotgun fixing all of them all the time. Every time you swing an Adex club with an inside circle, an outside circle, or a shield cast, you're causing every muscle in your core to try to fire, and your pelvic floor fires every time this club swings laterally. Inside circle, outside circle. Your pelvic floor should fire, then that should lead to your glutes, and then when you catch, your obliques should stabilize. Move it closer to my mouth? Okay. Clubs tend to do, heavy clubs tend to fix breathing issues the fastest. These tend to fix the expansion and contraction of the rib cage the fastest. If you look at Chinese medicine or Chinese martial arts, I have electrical tape in my pocket. Something like a martial art like Jing Yi, there are 5 types of movements based on 5 different ways that the rib cage moves, and they name them by the organ that is compressed or expanded through the movement of the rib cage. So you have lung, kidney, spleen. You have your 5 basic movement patterns. When you do this and you practice your double heart-shaped patterns, then you are working on relearning how to expand and contract the rib cage, right? Most people as they age, and most people in the Western world, honestly, have almost no movement in their rib cage. The rib cage exists as a block, but the ribs are supposed to expand and contract. They're supposed to be mobile. Your spine connects to your ribs. It's all supposed to move. So we design programs to make it move, and then the heavy club forces the contraction. As you go up in weight, the contraction becomes harder. People learn to breathe better. Then when they get to swings, they learn a harder type of breathing. That's why we alternate kettlebells one day, clubs the other day. And then when they go to clean and press, once again, they should be expanding and contracting their ribs in conjunction with the contraction of their pelvic floor. So at what point in the series of programs do deconditioned individuals generally regain their ability to breathe properly? It definitely happens for women when they finish single arm 10-pound club. And it definitely usually happens for men when they finish single arm 15-pound club. That's usually the point where it happens. So everything is meant to get people to that. You'll notice inside circle, outside circle, and shield cast are in the club integration track on training for overweight individuals and on intro to kettlebell. And the goal is then to have that run all the way through with swings and clean and press. Clubs are the exact opposite of kettlebells. They move this way, right? Kettlebells move this way, up and down. When you do these things on opposite days, you relearn how to breathe. You integrate your structure, your breathing, and your movement, and you learn how to contract and expand your rib cage properly again. So somewhere in that range. What? Oh, somebody gave us, KD gave us $2. Thanks, KD. Thank you. Clean and press question. If one completes the clean and press program with 32 kilogram, do Turkish get-ups replace that Tetris? Do we need to maintain clean and press indefinitely? You can put Turkish get-ups are always a small section of training that are designed to get you up off of the ground. Clean and press is a work capacity drill. So the high point of the clean and press program is currently the 32 kilogram because that's economically viable for most people. But you are never done with clean and press, ever. The last couple of years, I've been working on competition clean and jerk, which is a version of clean and press. And this year, I'm going back and I'm working on clean and press over again. I started over with the 20, and I'm going to rebuild it all the way up to 32. And then we're making a new piece of equipment because we're crazy. And we're going to try and expand the math for that all the way up to 48K because it's insane. It's kind of the equivalent of like a 400 some bench. So we're expanding. But you are never, ever, ever done with clean and press. It doesn't matter. You're never done with clean and press. You can do clean and press forever. You can do clean and press more. You can do it faster. You can do it slower. Turkish get up is separate, right? Clean and press is work capacity. It's lifting and carrying. Turkish get up is get ups, getting up off of the ground. So I don't think you ever get rid of clean and press. Just the same way you never get rid of some version of a squat. It's going to be there forever. Turkish get up, you could do the kettlebell Turkish get up, which tends to be the easiest one for people to learn. But then after that, we would like people to be doing all the other get ups. The Krav get up, the judo get up, the prone get up, the screwing push up, all of those other ones. They stop being kettlebell exercises, but they keep being get ups. So you're absolutely never done with clean and press. You'll be doing it forever. You'll be doing it more. You'll be doing it faster. You'll find another way to do it. I started over with my clean and press single arm program. I had a pretty bad knee injury last year, and I definitely need surgery. So I am downloading right now. We were doing an experimental phase of training before Christmas with a new piece of equipment. which seems like it's going to work out. It's just going to take, we're going to have to figure out how to make the math work because it's a pretty crazy piece of equipment, but we're going to try and expand our clean and press all the way to 48K. And that could be a lifetime goal for people. And you could build up and get to the point where you stop and then you start over and you build up and you start over and you get a little higher every time. Getting to single arm clean and press with a 48K for reps is insane. You're never done. KD club question. What Kung Fu postures are club movements similar to? All of them. All of Kung Fu is exactly like clubs. If you do heavy club swinging, your ability to do any martial art skyrockets. We just made a video a couple days ago. It's not out yet. Just about like the sword swing in Kung Fu, which is exactly a Kung Fu Dao move that you can do with heavy clubs. Clubs are most like Chinese punches as opposed to Western style punches. A lot of Western style punches, the fist turns over. In Chinese punches, the elbow stays in and you'll have a vertical fist. Mill, inside circle, outside circle, reverse mill are all exactly Kung Fu punches in rotations. In Kung Fu, you tend to move everything except the feet, as opposed to Western martial arts where you pivot your feet. In Western martial arts, you pivot your feet because they're designed for the ring, which is level ground on a smooth surface. In Kung Fu, the feet don't move and you move everything else because it's designed to be done on the side of a mountain, on rocks, on unlevel ground. If you try to pivot your feet, you fall off the mountain. So all Kung Fu looks like clubs eventually. All you have to do is change the foot position and it turns into Kung Fu. So if you look at Summer Huntington Steel Mace Vinyasa, or you look at my advanced single arm club stuff, above the normal single arm program, we start to put it into mountain pose, which in yoga is called warrior stance. You start to do shield cast into horse stance, which is a wide box squat. So you would put a box below the height of 90 degrees. You would put your feet 2 shoulder widths apart. You would still point your feet straight ahead. It would be shield cast directly into that. That is directly every movement from Kung Fu. And if you were to practice those, then you're pretty set up. So a double wide squat is a horse stance. The club will force you into a vertical spine. If you see somebody in their horse stance and their spine looks like this, their horse stance sucks. If they do shield cast, they have to have a vertical spine, which is good Kung Fu. And then if you have one leg forward, one leg back, warrior stance in yoga, mountain stance in Kung Fu, and you start practicing your cross body heavy club sequence, that's all Kung Fu. And then your dragon stance in kettlebells is directly from Kung Fu. It's really a copy of Kung Fu that didn't exist before they started putting it in back with My Mad Methods in Steve Cotter back in the early 2000s. That's a twisting stance in Kung Fu. Squat to single leg, Kung Fu. It's a single leg stance. Anytime you swing a heavy weight and you walk, you're doing Kung Fu. So we can talk about that infinitely, but most people don't care all that much about it. But just know if you do clubs, you're getting good at all of the base movement patterns. And we could talk about that in extraordinary levels of detail. Paramus is just finishing their 3rd cycle of the training for overweight and deconditioned individual program. Excellent, right? A lot of people for that program run up to about 10 cycles before they get into the intro to kettlebell program, and then they can run that for 10 cycles. The goal is for you to run more cycles and be more prepared, right? You repeat training over and over and over again until you know it by heart and you could teach it yourself. The more cycles you run, the better your future outcomes will be. Excellent work, Paramus. I'm happy that you're doing the program. The whole goal is to make everybody healthy. Question. D. Saron. Future program question. When will the club stepping program come out? I don't know. We already shot some of it. We shot 2 of them like a year ago in November in the desert. Ryan's looking at me like he thinks I'm crazy. I decided to redo it. So on the program sheet that's coming out this year, there is a double heavy club program, double heavy club 1. We hadn't talked about this much because it's twice as expensive. It's really designed around a double Adex because you're going to have super small weight jumps. And the stepping program. I keep rewriting the stepping program over and over and over again because I keep changing what I think people will be able to do. I'm trying to communicate the information better. It should be out this year. It's all been done, practiced. We just need to actually put it on the shooting schedule and the editing schedule. So we will start looking at that after we finish all these re-edits and bringing all of the swings, clean and press, TOI, and ITK all into a more cohesive edit and into a more cohesive app experience. Is it possible to add the BJJ program to Kajabi? Well, it's run out of. I don't know what is Will host on. Order in progress is on Kajabi. It's just not under our app. It's under the order in progress app. I'll ask. I don't know. Yeah, that's a question for the. Well, I'll ask Will. I'll talk to him about it. Slam ball question. What is the best way to Tetris slam ball program with kettlebells and clubs? It's usually a C day. So kettlebells day 1A, clubs B day, and slam ball C. Slam ball is a hard program, just so everybody's really aware. It's awesome, but it is nasty. It's on a different time scale than most of the other programs, so it tends to be able to drop directly in. And club actually usually becomes the light day on that strategy, but it's usually twice a week. Program C, and when I put it in things, and then it becomes level 1, level 1, level 2, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, go up and wait for level 1, and then keep rolling the cycle with our classic perfect path math program. And slam ball, you'll spend a lot of time. If you get through at least 3 weights with all 5 levels, you'll get the idea. But I do want people, gentlemen, I want them to run towards 100 pounds. And ladies, I would like them to run towards 70 pounds, 70%. We're always using that CrossFit math, 70% of the men's standard for the ladies, always. Nilda Aguila, protocol question. Why aren't swings done as volume cycles like snatches are? Mostly because they're easier on the hands, and I always want them to stay inside of a 10-minute design. You can run them as a volume cycle, but I like the program the way it is. Really think about the program the way it exists now, as I'm doing this constant rise and fall, where you run a 4-week cycle and then it gets easy again. Your volume goes way down, but we're keeping it inside of that 10-minute time frame. We're doing that because it stands as a different metabolic demand than volume cycles. So snatches run on volume cycles and then density cycles. Swings run on their own math because 10 minutes twice a week works out super well for everybody. It's very simple strategy, and you should be able, doing that program, to get through 12 weights in 12 months with a swing program, which allows people to get the absolute most out of training in the least amount of time. With the advent of the Wildman kettlebells and our half K increments, it works out incredibly, incredibly well. So we get the greatest response in the least amount of time. You can run it as volume cycles. I just don't like it that way. I've found over 15 years, God, how long have I been a trainer? 20 years of being a trainer, that keeping it at 10 minutes allows people to build consistency with it. And the strategy going in a 4-week wave easy, hard, and then it starts over, easy, hard, allows people to get the proper metabolic response and maintain consistency. You can do it any way you want. I like it the way I do it because it's after 20 years, it's the best thing I've found so far. Oh, aerial question. Ooh, I never get these. KD's wife has dabbled in kettlebells and clubs, but hasn't stuck for her. Now she's into aerial yoga. Would bells and clubs enhance her aerial practice? Absolutely. I would not recommend anybody do aerial circus arts unless you were a child gymnast, which is what most people were, or you do kettlebells and clubs. If you're trying to come into aerial later in life, doing swings twice a week will make your life way better. If you don't do it, the odds that you live through aerial are super low. Super low. The death rate, the injury rate in aerial is super high. I love aerial. It's infinitely complex, but it is dangerous. Aerial yoga is easier because aerial yoga is not actually aerial. It's yoga with an aerial apparatus. But if you would like to move from aerial yoga to aerial, like aerial hammock, you have to be able to do an invert. And that means you have to have grip strength and club grip strength, where it pulls through your grip, is the same as aerial grip strength for hammock, rope, and silks. Hammock is the easiest one to learn first. Aerial yoga is where they take an aerial hammock and they just do yoga with an apparatus. Aerial is when it's head height or above and you can fall to your death. You have to have grip strength. The best way for people to get grip strength is to run a single arm club program, 2-hand club program. You have to have core, you have to have glutes, you have to be able to breathe, and you have to be able to endure. I did an aerial act with Viva La Glam years ago. God, that must have been 2014. It was a 12-minute doubles act. It was crazy. Viva La Glam's a crazy aerialist. She's incredibly good. But now I have to be able to hang in the air by your hands while holding on to a 140-pound, 6-foot-tall Brazilian aerialist, and you have to be able to do it for 12 minutes. So you need strength, endurance. Kettlebells and clubs is the only reason I could ever live through that. Or you have to be born into some type of super gymnast family that puts you in gymnastics training when you're like 4. If you're doing any type of aerial at all, I could not recommend kettlebells and clubs more. Like, it's the only thing that I know that's strength, endurance for the time frames and the correct type of strength. Kettlebells are like trapeze, clubs are like rope, hammock, and silks. And seeing as how your life is in danger when you're doing it, you should be really confident in that. That should not be something you want to think about. You want to think about where you're putting your hand so you don't die. I know because I once missed a grip. That's how I became super seriously injured. I fell 25 feet. I ripped my leg in half. PCL completely gone. LCL completely gone. Meniscus gone. Popliteus tendon gone. Right. Ironically, for me, it wasn't a strength thing. It was a structure of training thing. I trained too close to failure because that's what you learn when you're a gym trainer. Train to failure. Terrible idea. If you're doing anything actually death-defying. Don't train to failure when you're racing motorcycles. Don't train to failure when you're riding horses. Don't train to failure when you're climbing mountains because you fall to your death. Don't train to failure when you're doing aerial because you fall to your death. You need to train to a comfortable stop. Kettlebells and clubs are sub-maximal training strategies designed to allow you to continue to function, whereas bodybuilding strategies are meant for failure. You don't want to fail anything when it comes to aerial. D. Sauron, this is an ankle stiffness question. What are your thoughts on ankle stiffness? I think most people have absolutely terrible ankles. And once again, this is a kettlebell and club answer. There are 8 key components of structure. Foot position. I talk about this all the time. Nobody else talks about this as much as I do, except ballerinas. Leg drive, hip snap, crown to coccyx alignment, core engagement, shoulder pack, elbow position, and grip confirmation. 8 key components of structure. Think about every major joint going up. Ankle, foot, arch of foot. I consider those the same thing. If you practice barefoot with your feet straight ahead, any type of clubbing or kettlebelling, your ankles move, right? Specifically, you're moving your subtalis joint. I know because when I got super hurt, my subtalis joint froze from not walking for 6 months, and it disrupted the movement of the rest of my body. So I had to work on not just the mobility of my knee, which grew together with scar tissue into a straight line, and they tried to break it for like 6 months before they gave up because I would pass out every time. And then they went in and they did a surgery so that my leg would actually bend. They went back in and they cut the scar tissue inside the joint out so my leg would bend. But then my talus joint in my ankle had frozen. And physical therapy is okay, but it's 3 sets of 10 is not 600 reps. So the whole point of single arm club for me, the way that I wrote it, is if you point your feet straight ahead and you take your shoes off and you do the single arm club program, and then you do it with 7 weights, your ankle stiffness goes away because you're doing this. How do I show this? It's doing this the entire time, and that joint mobilizes again. Hundreds of reps a day, and the arch of your foot fires. If your foot works and your ankle works, everything else can work. If your foot doesn't work and your ankle doesn't work, it doesn't work. So I always tell people that's why single arm club shows up in everything. TOI, ITK, single arm club, because foot health and ankle health makes everything else work. After that, go to jump rope. Then you'll get your springy feet. Once again, do it barefoot. Joe Barry. Thoughts on an AB, program A, program B, 3 times, 6 days a week, double long cycle, single arm club program design. So 3 times each per week, prepping for first kettlebell sport competition in April. I think that's a great idea. So the problem with kettlebell sport guys is that they tend to train the exact same movements 5 days a week, but it's all pitching and heaving, which are 2 of the 6 degrees of freedom that we talk about. Heaving, moving up and down, surging, moving forward and back, swaying, stepping side to side, pitching, pivoting forward and back, a swing, a kettlebell snatch, a long cycle, yawing, rotating around the vertical axis, and rolling. Every time you do a mill, your spine rolls, right? So you can either look at this through the lens of Chinese movement. I use those engineering terms: heaving, surging, swaying, pitching, rolling, and yawing. I use those terms instead. The problem with kettlebell sport guys is they tend to get hyper specialized. Like anybody who does a competition sport, gymnasts always throw their floor routine with their lead hand, and they almost never ever do it with their other hand. So their rib cage kind of is specialized to throwing with a right hand lead, most people. And they have a horrible time throwing a left hand lead, and they end up with injuries because of that. Kettlebell sport guys, because they're rounding their body around the bell, expanding and contracting their rib cage in this heaving and pitching movement, they tend to, if something goes wrong and they get injured, one side of their spine becomes stronger than the other. The best way to solve that is to, you guessed it, alternate days with kettlebell or alternate days with heavy club swinging. It could be 2-handed club or it could be single arm club. Single arm club tends to work better because it doesn't let them escape their hand movement and efficiency. But I think that that's a great idea. So double long cycle is a double clean and press, but a long cycle is a jerk. There's all these specialized words. Double long cycle is a double kettlebell clean and jerk 4 time. First kettlebell sport competition in April. Competition sport. Now there are different versions of it. There are 5 minutes, but the original was 10 minutes. So I don't know what he's prepping for. But now imagine doing 13 reps a minute for 10 minutes, 130 reps nonstop, never putting the weight down. You become extraordinarily specialized. Long cycle is probably the ultimate way to build general work capacity. There is literally nothing better that I have ever come across that develops that, even if you're not doing double 32Ks. Most people cannot survive that, even advanced athletes. Even working at lighter weights, but not putting it down for 10 minutes, holding 13 plus reps per minute, and then working your way up in weight is probably the greatest way to build work capacity I've ever seen for just like normal everyday life. If you want to, ride dirt bikes super fast, ride horses, climb mountains, there's nothing beyond it, especially when it's combined with single arm club, because single arm club introduces the yaw. There is not really any yaw rotating around the vertical axis this way in long cycle. So I think that that's a really good strategy for competition guys, and it will reduce their overall number of injuries. So I think that that's an excellent strategy. Good luck on your first kettlebell sport competition. It is a nightmare. It is a long, long 10 minutes. It's a long 5 minutes. It's a long everything minute. Every one of those minutes is the longest minute of your life. Two-hand club question. Thoughts on 1 day basis of strength, which is two-hand club, 1 day mill squat as we do a heavy light? Sure. Excellent. So basis of strength is the big program. It is 7 levels, 8 movements per level, 56 total movements. Mill squat is now called BJJ1, and it's 15 movements. 32-minute program versus 20-minute program. The reason we recommend mill squat for BJJ guys is because their sport is incredibly hard every day. Any day that you roll is super hard. So we want to get them stronger, but we don't want to burn up so much energy that they make mistakes doing the other thing. The long program has all the movement patterns in it, the lunge and the get up, and the front press, which are not in mill squat. They're there. So like normally, if you're like a normal person who's not heavy into sports, then it's basis of strength. If you're heavy into sports, then it's mill squat. But combining them together, excellent idea. The mill squat will go up in weight and the basis of strength becomes your light complex day. That's an awesome strategy. Clean and press. Thoughts on what to do when you hit a plateau. Anytime you hit a plateau, the reason we have the start, stop, clean and press in the clean and press program is you can drop back down in weight and do the start, stop and rebuild. We use that as a plateau buster. So normally people are going up in weight. They hit a plateau. They can't seem to get any further. Their structure, their breathing, and their movement breaks down and they fail. We try not to fail all that much. As soon as we hit that point, we usually drop a couple of weights and start doing the start, stop, clean and press program. By adding the start, stop movement pattern in there, it slows it down. It changes the way you load your hips, but it allows you to rebuild the pressing portion as well and to rebuild back up to break the plateau. The strategy is always to drop weight and add complexity. Start, stop is the easiest thing to do, and make sure that people are resetting their hips each time. It slows it down. It changes their breath pattern. And then if you did clean and press reloaded, the whole thing is plateau busters, where we combine other things in there like squats in order to have people rebuild better and better and better. So you can work on your clean and press program. Then you can go back and you can do it all the way through again with start, stop, and then you can do it all the way through with the 3 extra things in reloaded, which involve squats and all kinds of other things in order to get that up towards your goal weights. Let's do a quick other program or equipment announcement here. So we had already talked about the Hestus steel clubs coming out this year, the Hestus Cadillac clubs. So now we have the Adex clubs, best use of your money for the majority of people, easiest thing to travel. The steel clubs for people with gyms, the Cadillac clubs for people who want to get really, really good at their single arm program, and some other weird stuff, right? The battle maces are out. Again, this year they're going back into manufacture with Badland Outfitters. Just so you guys know, this is not meant for normal flow. This is meant for armored combat and for striking drills. So this is meant to be used for most people with gloves. This is a wire wrap handle. If you were to try to do a 20-minute set with this, you'd probably end up with blisters. It's meant for fast transitions and to be covered in sweat and blood. So the Badlands, Wildman maces, and all the weights are out, including the Super Cardio 7.5. And then there was some other stuff here. If anybody's into fire dancing, we're making the Badlands is making these, the Moria fire tools. And for everybody who watched Indiana Jones growing up and thought, wow, I super need a whip and I need it to be set on fire, there are now Badlands fire whips, which is not something I knew I needed in my life, but now I know I need it in my life. So this is what we do for fun. We have fire whip contests. What else am I missing, Ryan? What do we need to talk about today? He'll come up with an idea for me. All right, let's keep answering questions. Nilda Aguila, do you use the words neurological and psychological interchangeably, or are you using them to mean different things? I use them to mean different things entirely. I talk about neurological programming is 100% different than psychological programming. Neurological means I'm talking about the structure of your brain and how quickly it adapts in response to specific stimulus. So neurological adaptation is doing the single arm club program 7 times through. You have rewritten the movement center of your brain, the physical structure inside of your brain, to be really, really good at this base human movement pattern. Psychological does not mean that at all. Psychological is an entirely different thing. Neurological means I'm trying to drive the driver. I'm trying to change the hardware as well as the software to drive things. That is, if anybody who practices Kung Fu, it is neurological programming. You're trying to build your brain and your body's ability to create specific responses. So whenever I talk about neurological load, I'm talking about putting enough load and demand to force the structure of your brain to change, to drive your body to create permanent athletic change. Interesting question. But yes, I'm using neurological load as an idea of creating something that cannot be unlearned. I'm trying to create something that is unable to be unlearned. And we do this with everything, whether it's with fight training, sword training, aerial circus arts. You train until the point where you cannot do it wrong. All of my training is designed as neurological load training. This is something that's hilarious. It's not hilarious, but you see this all the time. People do a bunch of get-ups, and then they think that they know get-ups, and then you punch them in the face, and then they don't know get-ups anymore. That's because they don't have a neurological adaptation. They can't not do it the right way. This is something you see when you're doing something like full contact armor, Spartan armor training suits, scenario training. The second things get out of the normal pattern, people completely lose an ability to do specific basic human movement patterns, which is why I design the training the way that I do. If you've ever done something like tactical firearms training and you're doing live fire get-ups where you close your eyes, they punch you in the face, you get knocked down, and then you have to get up while shooting moving targets. you'll see instantly that people put the wrong hand on the ground and they can't get up off of the ground and they get stuck in a loop. And that means that they have not neurologically adapted to the demand that we want them to adapt to. The reason I write all the training the way I write my training is I want it to be impossible for you to do it wrong, no matter how much stress you're under. So neurological training is different than psychological training. Oh, I just lost my place in the list. Matka gave me $10. Thanks, Matka. And he asked me a question. What's the curriculum for understanding my approach, Wildman Athletico approach? Core concepts, body, how it works, what it's for, the history, the science, etc. And its relation to other approaches. Recommended reading. There is no recommended reading for this. People keep asking me this. There is no recommended reading for this. This is a lifetime of me like growing up on a dirt road and wanting to understand things and going about doing it the only way I knew how, which was read as many books as possible, study whatever martial art I could find in my area, and then doing engineering and then synthesizing all these ideas together. I have so many opinions on these things, but I pull a lot of this stuff from other different types of training programs. Where did I get my definition for endurance? Structure, breathing, and movement. I don't even remember. That might have been a Steve Cotter way back in the day. But a lot of it's Kung Fu. I'm always talking to guys. You'll see Randall Davis is in this comment section. Randall Davis is Red Force Chinese boxing, and he's a practitioner from Colorado. So I'm constantly talking to people every day and thinking about this stuff, whether it's my stunt friends, guys in the stunt industry, different types of lifters. One of my buddies is a world champion Ironman triathlete. And so we're constantly going through engineering, and I'll talk to them like, what is your approach? What is my approach? If you want to understand the curriculum, then you would do all of my programs in order, read all the books that go with it, the in training manuals, and come to programs, come to seminars. We are trying to get all this into one learnable format, but I think it's going to take me another 2 years because anybody who did my early programs knows that I tend to way overwrite. I tend to overwrite, and I tend to concisely coach because I'm trying to pull in a lot of ideas. But the most important ideas are structure, breathing, and movement. And structure is the 8 key components of structure. There are 5 levels of breathing, and then movement is specific to every type of movement, but there are basic human movements. The most important ones that I talk about are throwing patterns, lifting and carrying, and then quadruped movement. I will come up with a better answer for you in the future because I would like to turn this into a coaching instructor's program, but I have to finish all the other projects before I can dedicate my time to making sure that I'm doing that project well. I hit my M. Ahmed 10. Is that euro or is that pounds? That's 10 pounds. I always the British pound symbol always I just find amazing. I can currently do a pyramid 3, 2, 2, 1 using a 16 kilogram kettlebell. 5 sets of swings with 20 kilogram. Okay. 20 kilogram TGU, 3 sets. So that means 3 reps times 1. I'm assuming that means left, right, left, right, left, right. Where should I aim to be by the end of the year in terms of kettlebell weight for each exercise, including snatch? Okay, that's a great question. Sure. You should get through 12 weights. 10 weights in clean and press. So you should be on at least 26 if you're doing half K jumps with your clean and press program, right? You should also get to your goal of the pyramid, which is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you should go through at least 12 weights in half K jumps or 6 weights in 1K jumps. 5 sets of swings with the 20K. You should be doing 10 sets of swings with your 20K, and you should get to 32K by the end of the year. That should be, those are totally easily reasonable goals. Once you get up above your 24 kilogram clean and press, then I would start doing snatches, and I would drop back down to the 16K, and I would run volume cycles. Volume cycle 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. And you should get through 6 weights from 6K up and 1K jumps. So you should be on at least 22K snatches by the end of the year. So clean and press should be 12 weights. So it could be 16. That would be 28 kilogram by the end of the year. Swings, 32 kilogram. TGU should be 10-minute sets twice a week, or 5-minute. Well, let's go with 5-minute sets because you're going to do snatches. And snatches should be 16 plus 12, or 16 plus at least 6. So it should be 22 kilograms. Yeah, I think I said that all right. Yeah. There's your answer, Ahmed. So for swings, you should be able to get through 12 weights a year. So it doesn't matter where you start. Men, you're getting to 32K minimum, right? Most people will be able to do that in a year. That's why we talk about swings, right? If you started at 16 and you went up 1K jump, so it'd be 16 plus 12 would be 28, and then it would take you another 4 months beyond that. So it would take you 16 months to get from 16 to 32K. Super standard, but that will set up the basis of your fitness for absolutely everything. That's why I always talk about the swing program the way that I do. When I worked with actors, how do you make people in the best shape possible in the least amount of time? That's it, right? There's your basis of everything else. You can throw tennis balls at people after that and have them dodge them, and they'll still end up in great shape if they're running their swing program. I worked on movies where you would get somebody and they would have 0 experience, but they have to get better every month until the end of the movie, and you have 9 months, right? Swing program's the best way to do that, followed by clean and press, followed by two-handed club, followed by single arm club, and then shoving in some Turkish get-up stuff where necessary, and then putting in your body weight training as low days. We talk about this stuff all the time because these are the best options. That was an excellent question, though, from Ahmed in clearly England. Timber Lodge. I'm kind of jumping around here, guys. Programming question. Is it okay to run the TGU program with the mill squat program in an AB schedule? Excellent. Yes, absolutely. That is a great 4-day-a-week plan. Turkish Get Up program is a 5-level program where we break down all the individual pieces of Turkish Get Ups. Most people in the modern world, if they have been deconditioned or very hurt, have a hard time going directly into Turkish Get Up. The Turkish Get Up program is meant to hunt down by breaking the TGU down any piece of movement that might not be there, anything that your neurological pattern is missing, either from injury or from lack of training, and fixing it. It's a really good program. It's a super nerd program. So doing it twice a week, you would be doing a program Monday and Thursday, and one of them would be the light day at a higher level of complexity, and the other one would be a lower level of complexity, a heavier day. So if Turkish Get Up is light, mill squat is heavy, a day break, and then Turkish get up heavy, mill squat light. So AB, heavy light, and then AB, light heavy. Excellent strategy, classic. Like nearly impossible to fail. The only way you can really mess that up is to just not do it. Classic schedule. So you don't do 2 heavy days in a row and 2 light days in a row. One is light, one is heavy, one is light, one is heavy. That would be an excellent program strategy, and I highly recommend you do it. The Turkish Get Up program, just so everybody knows, is lighter weights than your clean and press program by far. Most guys will start the Turkish Get Up program. Once again, one of the reasons we worked with Bells of Steel to make the competition adjustable kettlebell with half K jumps was the Turkish Get Up program. A lot of guys are going to start that in the 14K range. Ladies, once again, smaller framed people. That's why the Mark II is here, the 6 to 12K, because it's a nasty program. It's a lot of work in a very short period of time, and it's a lot of breakdowns. You can take any skill and break it down into other smaller pieces and turn every one of those things into drills. That's the strategy that I use for everything. It works out really well because it makes it very hard to fail. The goal is not to learn to fail. The goal is to learn to succeed. The way that you do that is by breaking everything down into smaller pieces. Calculus, partial differential equations, kettlebell lifting, kung fu, dirt bike riding, everything. Aerial, for sure, aerial. Here's a question from AE about kettlebell snatch. How would you program a kettlebell snatch program? Would you run through the clean and press program, weights, reps, and sets, but for snatches? Step 1, you should run a swing program. Then you should run a clean and press program. And then you should start down at the bottom with a snatch program. Everybody wants to jump into snatches, but they always end up ripping their hands in a very predictable spot. You'll see I still have my scars from when I was originally learning snatch 20 years ago because nobody told me that I should drop way down in weight, use the smallest jumps possible, and run a volume cycle and density cycle. So clean and press is run on the reverse pyramid strategy because it's the best way to do it, and it starts to exemplify making things easier instead of harder. So you start with the high number of reps, could be 5, and then it gets easier over time. It goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It gets easier as it goes, so structure stays good. But you're actually doing 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1 is 15 reps on 2 sides, which is 30 reps, which is starting to teach you to endure and breathe. Endure in the hips, endure in the core, and focus on your breathing. It should be up to a 2.5 minute set to 3 minute set, depending on how heavy it is when you get to your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That prepares you to go way back down and do snatches. So think kettlebell clean, the weight stops at the middle and then goes up. So the kettlebell is falling less far. It's falling from your shoulder height to below hip position. When you're doing a snatch, you're absorbing way more force because you're going from overhead down. So the kettlebell is going twice as far, and it means that it picks up more energy on the swing. It's also faster. Your pace for kettlebell snatch, when you get good at it, is usually around 20 reps per minute. Think of that as a medium point of training. That goes way up and way down if you're doing something like competition, because it could be as low as 6 reps per minute in training, but the goal is to get towards 20 to 22 reps per minute for speed. We do a volume cycle program, and it should be 5 and 5, and that should take you under 28 seconds, and then you put the weight down. When most people are working on snatch training in the beginning, the thing that fails is that kettlebell is not close enough to their body, and they're not absorbing the force with their hips. So that's why you do so much clean and press to prepare the catch of the snatch. And then other people, they're not catching in the corner. You should be in the corner of your bell. When you're at the top, your handle is down at a 45-degree angle. When you catch at the bottom, you should be catching in the corner. If you're catching in the middle, what happens is, see if I can show this. the skin compresses. Oh, right there. The skin compresses as it transitions across your hand, and this skin gets crushed and then it gets ripped off. The goal is not to rip your hands. That was not how it was when I first started learning kettlebells back in 2005. You just bled all the time. But that was a problem because every time you ripped your hands, it took 10 days before you could actually snatch again. So in the interest of more training, rip your hands less, catch better, smaller weight jumps. So if you're going to program a kettlebell snatch, it's always a volume cycle because the volume starts low, but the intensity stays the same. You build up towards 20 sets of 5, and then you can density cycle. In the beginning, most people just go up to 20 sets of 5, and then they'll start over with a heavier weight, 6 sets of 5, and they will keep building over and over and over again. The smaller the jump, the better. The smaller the jump in weight, the better your overall outcome usually is, because the goal is to not thrash your hands and to allow your tendons and your ligaments more time to adapt. So there's a difference between a competition snatch program and what I just call like a workman snatch program. A workman snatch program is build up to 20 sets of 5, go up a half K or 1K, repeat it. And now you're doing the same type of wave that you do in a swing program. And then you go to approach 32K, and then I would go back down, and then I would run density cycles again. I hope I answered your question. A lot of the stuff that I talk about and that I've worked on creating, adjustable bells with the smallest weight jumps possible, half K is what we have right now, allows people to have much, much, much better outcomes in a shorter period of time. It usually feels less sexy to people, but they bleed a lot less. And if they bleed a lot less, they actually get better much faster. Here's an answer to my previous question about rope flow. David Weck has a free rope flow course on his site. I will inspect that. I'll check it out. Here's a question from Liam about single arm club program. Liam prefers the single arm club over two-hand club. Is 50 pounds the end goal for both single and two-hand, or does single club have a different weight for the end goal? So this changes year by year. We used to only have up to 45-pound clubs. And then back in 2015, I made up to 60, and then nobody else made above 45 for a long time. Now we have Hestus is now making in 2.5-pound jumps these gym clubs up to 50 pounds. I tell people two-handed club up to 50 pounds for men. Sorry about that, knocking the table. Because that's a pretty good solid weight for men. It's the weight of a bag of grain. You should be able to lift 1,000 bags of grain and stack them a day. You know, welcome to the childhood of somebody who grew up on a farm. That's something that everybody should be able to do. So I say 50 pounds is brown belt level for clubs. There were no really heavier weights. There were a couple guys in Italy who had some heavier custom clubs, but now we're going to have up to 70. We have it with Adex. We have it with the Cadillac clubs, and we're going to have it with the steel clubs, and we're going to have up to 70 with all of those. So the recommendation for two-hand is 50 is brown belt, 70 is black belt. Single arm, the recommendation used to be, it was 15 was instructor way back in like 2007, 20 was coach, 25 was advanced coach. I think I've redone this training over and over and over again because of the advent of the Adex with 1.25-pound jumps. I require everybody who wants to be a trainer for me to be single arm 30, right? I consider that brown belt. Single arm 50 is getting real nuts. And I think that we might have to design a specific club to make that more possible. I've done up to single arm 45 because that's what I had back then. After I was seriously injured in 2008 in the circus, and I rebuilt my ability to walk and do everything. I started with a 10-pound club, and I took 2 years, and I got all the way back to single arm 45, mill and reverse mill, 100 reps, mill left and right, 100 reps, reverse mill left and right. But 30 is what I say everybody should be able to do. I think with these new adaptations in clubs that we'll be able to get people, we'll be able to bump that up to single arm 40 is very common. And I would like to get people towards single arm 50, but think two-hand club is 50, single arm is 30, ladies are 70% of that number. That's going to change as we get better equipment. When we get equipment specifically designed just for single arm club, then I think that that will change. That is something that we are working on because I think single arm 50 is dope. So I want to make it possible for everybody. So I'm going to work on that project. That's a project I'm working on this year, making that a reality. Right now, single arm 30 is what you're looking for. Mill, reverse mill, 100 reps, 100 reps on each side, 400 reps total without stopping, sub 22 minutes. Sub 22 minutes. Good question, Liam. Excellent. Thank you, sir. When it comes to a kettlebell snatch, is a 150 rep program or a 400 rep program better? A 200 rep program is what we're looking for with snatches. Swings, we're building up to 200. If you're doing the super endurance version instead of the 10-minute version, the 20-minute version, it's 400. Clean and press is 150 reps. That's 75 left, 75 right. Snatch, pretty standard. We're looking for 100 reps left, 100 reps right, 200 total. Each one of these things, because they have their own pace and their own breathing pattern, have their own numbers. Tim from Brooklyn, getting here from Japan. Nihongo o hanashimasu. Yes, we do speak Japanese. Training for women question from Christy Roberts. Question: when you run a woman through your program, is weight the only difference, or do you factor in other variables that are specific to women, such as cycles? For the most part, humans are humans, but men and women do tend to respond differently. Men tend to like to go up in weight faster. Think the two-handed BJJ club program 1, less movements, more weight increase. Ladies tend to like more complexity and lighter weight for a longer period of time. The fundamentals are the same. It is still swing. It is still clean and press. It is still get up, right? The club programs are still the same. The difference is at what rate they tend to go up. Men tend to like to push up in weight higher, faster, but for the most part, it is generally almost exactly the same. There's something hilarious about training women. They tend to listen to you, which is funny. Most people don't think that that's true. But it's like if you're training women to shoot guns, you can tell them exactly what to do and they do it exactly the same way every time. Guys tend to try to like not listen to you and think that they know everything, which is hilarious, especially with sword fighting or guns or something like that. Women overall tend to be better students. But for the most part, the training is about 90% similar. There are some differences psychologically in fight training. If you're doing full contact fight training, there are some differences there. But for the most part, the base program is 99% the same. Right? So ladies, if you're starting swings, 12 weights inside of a year, right? Clean and press, the goals are the same. 12 weights, no, what's our time frame for clean and press? It's 10 weights inside of a year, single arm club. It just starts at different points. Here's a question. Fit this 2025 plus. This is about the Adex. The question is, for the Adex adjustable club, should you be adding weight at the top of the club, farthest from the handle, or at the bottom of the club, closest to the hand? The answer is up here. The answer is top of the handle. So the goal is to find a good weight for you. The Adex is the only club that allows everybody to find a correct weight and length. So when your arm is perfectly straight and your shoulder is down, you want the top of the club to be about 5 inches above the top of your foot. So what I have people do is I have them come in and we put on spacers until we get to that correct length. That way, even if they do something wrong in the beginning, when people are learning single arm club in the beginning, they tend not to stand upright and rotate. They tend to drift and try to pitch forward as they rotate, and they get really close to the top of their foot. So we're looking for a 5-inch gap above the foot, and then we fill it with spacers. And then when we go up and weight, we remove the spacers up here and we add the weight furthest away from your hand. Excellent question. The goal is to make the top heavy. Something like a Cadillac club is actually a mace on the inside covered in rubber. The weight is here. There's a mace head inside of this, a cylindrical mace head. I know because I made some. So it looks like that, but it's covered in rubber. The goal is to have the weight furthest away from your hand. Farthest. To have the weight far away from your hand. The length of a club, for most people, what you're looking for is this length here. It should be, ironically, about the length of a machete, but it should be about the weight of your hand to touching your shoulder. So Adex is the only club that allows people to customize that length. If you're using Cadillac clubs or steel clubs, then they can vary in length, and that can alter how you do things. Having a perfect length makes everything a lot easier for people, but the weight should be farthest away from your hand. And then when you're adding, the weight will eventually grow towards your hand as you remove spacers. Francis Wheeler, baseball workout. Would the kettlebell or heavy club benefit a 18-year-old baseball player? Club, 100%. Program recommendation, BJJ Program 1, which is the short 20-minute two-handed club program, because it has inside pendulum, outside pendulum, inside circle, outside circle, squat, shield cast. That's going to be your muscle program, and then single arm program. So it would be an A-B program, but it would all be clubs. A program would be two-handed club, strength day. B program is single arm club, single arm throwing pattern. There is absolutely no way that does not make your baseball better. It's impossible. It's impossible for it not to work. And you would be running a single arm program for a minimum of 3.5 years. And you would probably, if you're 18 years old, I would go ahead and start light. I would start with a 10-pound single arm club, and I would go up with an Adex in those 1.25 pound jumps, because what you're really looking for is your tendons and your ligaments to adapt. Open shoulder, closed shoulder, elbow traction. Don't jump up and weight too fast. Your goal, you're probably going to go from 10 to the 30 over the course of 4 or 5 years in 1.25 pound jumps, and just run that program over and over twice a week. No more than twice a week, though. 18 years old, you still got kind of gumbier joints, right? And whatever arm you're throwing with, probably most people are right-handed, they're really whipping the shit and putting a lot of stress on these tendons. So at least only twice a week. Start it in the off season. So as soon as the season ends, right, start that. And then by the time you get to next season, you'll be killing it. Rest in peace, Steve Cotter. Yes, for those of you who don't know, Steve Cotter died, I believe, last week. I have no idea what from. Steve Cotter was a great leader in the world of kettlebells. He was actually at my first RKC in 2005. He taught there. He did his famous move, which was a full leg, single leg pistol squat to jump onto a table. Quite possibly one of the greatest base levels of athleticism I had ever seen. Steve Cotter was a practitioner of Jing Yi, the internal martial art that I reference all the time. Steve Cotter taught for years, and he was giant, huge muscle guy, and then he became a super endurance guy, but he was always an excellent coach. I took several classes from him in the early 2000s between 05 and 08. Fantastic guy. And he will be missed in the kettlebell community, and his influence, his positivity will certainly be missed. Do you have a kettlebell program to accompany Muay Thai training? I don't right now, but I would love to build one. The key would be a lot of rack front squats into single leg stance. Muay Thai is an absolutely savage martial art. More importantly, they enjoy pain and in a way that I just think is weird and hilarious. So here's the problem with Muay Thai training as I see it. The coach is always lying to you. And no matter how hard you hit, he will make the drill infinitely longer until you die, which I think is not the neurologically best thing. Having trained with a bunch of Muay Thai guys over the year, I have a different philosophy than Muay Thai guys. This is a 30-second drill, and I want you to try as hard as possible for 30 seconds, and then it's actually over. Muay Thai guys tell you it's a 30-second drill, and then they just make it a minute longer. So what I see happen with most Muay Thai guys is they learn to sandbag. They learn to not put forth the max amount of effort because the drill is always going to get longer and crazier or dumber at some point, and so they have to keep gas in the tank. I love Muay Thai. It's an absolutely beautiful series of movements, and they are probably the most hardcore guys out there. But that coaching thing always drives me nuts. Programming with a barbell question. Oh, I never get these. Orion does things. He is running a barbell program, full body squats, bench and deadlift 3 times a week. So we're looking at a standard big 3 barbell program, big 3 back squats, bench, and deadlift. This is referred to as the big 3. This sits outside of normal barbell Olympic training, which is different. 3 times a week, 1 rest day. How would you program clubs or kettlebells or sandbags into that? Throw them on any other day. Barbell training is usually about max effort the way that he's doing this. This is probably a 5 sets of 5 with a ton of warm-ups. Full body squat, that could mean that he's running both back squats and front squats. Maybe Zerchers. Most people don't run Zerchers. I love Zerchers. If I was going to do barbells, I would do Zerchers, but it's not one of the classic big lifts. It's usually mid-back back squats with a lot of warm-up sets. So in order to get better at that, I would highly recommend doing rock bottom slam ball pickups as part of every single warm-up in this every day, at least 5 sets of a minute with a minute or 2-minute break in between to maximize the juiciness of the hips in the squat and to line your core up better so that you can be safer doing barbell squats. More range of movement is better, and more strength at the bottom is better. Deadlift program, I would be running something like a slam ball pickup as well for that. It would be a slam ball clean just because you would be working with a sub-maximal weight from the bottom of your deadlift position into full stand-up. But because it's front-loaded, it's going to, once again, change the position of your core. So if you're running this big barbell program, I would be doing rock bottom pickups, rock bottom squats, and cleans, and probably clean and press with at least a slam ball or a sandbag. And I would figure out how to write that in. I would put single arm club in on the 2 other off days, and that would turn this into a 5-day-a-week program. 100%. Anytime you're barbelling, because barbell is perfectly symmetrical, when people have asymmetries in either their hip movement or their spine strength, if they're super specialized with one hand, one side of their back is stronger, stabilizing than the other, then as they go up in weight, they tend to get a lot of very predictable injuries from underload, something shifting. Best way to do that is to warm up with sub-maximal load and greater range of movement, probably loaded in front of the body, and then to train single arm club on the off days, because single arm club is going to be rotation around your vertical axis, and it is going to lengthen in contraction all the muscles of the spine. If you have a line and you rotate it, you've made it longer, and it will strengthen both sides of your spine. When you do single arm clubs, what people don't realize is that every time that club swings across the bottom, they get pelvic floor firing, and the glutes go 1-1, 1-1. Every time you do an inside circle and outside circle, the glutes will fire in sequence. Stronger glutes, stronger lower back, more mobility, greater range of movement, 100% will make your barbelling better. If you guys can convince all of the barbell community to throw in single arm clubs, I think the success rate will probably get better over time. Man, there's a lot of questions in here. If you ever decide to certify people to train severely deconditioned folks, he is signing up. Thank you, John Freeman. I mean, I would love to. It's all just going to be the training. So what we're trying to do is create a 4-level club training instructor track. And that would be, the requirements would be single arm 15, single arm 20, single arm 25, and then single arm 30. And then we're trying to create a kettlebell track. It just got put on hold last year because of certain things that had happened that just kept it from being completed. So we are trying to work on our certification process this year, but the physical requirements are all laid out. In order to get to single arm 30, you have to be really good. Just getting to single arm 15 for most people is a feat, but we want to have this laid out in layers because we want people to do continuing education over the course of years. Here's an interesting question about staff. 808 country. The block, turn and strike down with the staff. Does it matter what hand is on top position when turning around left or right? No. It does in training. So this is a super nerdy answer to this question. How many ways can you turn around? So block, turn to strike. So it's a 180-degree turn from a block. So in block, there are actually 4 grip positions for block: over, under, and double under, which is absolutely terrible. And you should never be there, but you train it anyway so that you know that you can survive it. And then the turn goes through a shield cast into the strike. Now, the question is, whenever you turn, you usually, your rear shoulder, your opposite hand is going to end up high for the most part. But which leg are you stepping back with? So you have a 180-degree step back left leg, 180-degree step back right leg, and it should end up with your opposite hand high. But it doesn't always work out like that. There should be 2 more versions of that drill, but it should end up with right hand high. The question is, which foot are you stepping back with is always the real question there. And then where is the attack coming from? So if you're doing staff, you're getting attacks in the beginning from 180 degrees. Probably when you get more advanced, you start to get the upwards attack. When you get more advanced, you get a full 360 degrees of attack. You have to figure out that block into the stepping pattern. This is why we always talk about staff as being one of the most useful things that you can athletically learn, because it teaches you the most basic human stuff in the least amount of time. Don't get hit, learn how to step, integrate structure, breathing, and movement, and maximize force output and have it be constantly unpredictable. He's talking about this video I did with Amina years ago. So Amina, we did a series of blocking drill videos years ago outside of Gambate Fitness, which is my buddy's gym. It's a fantastic gym if you're in Los Angeles. They are the best endurance gym around. I don't know any place better, and I've been all over the world. And we were doing block turn drills. So what you'll notice is Amina was trained by the Russian government from the age of like 5 or something, and she's a competition kung fu person, and she is incredibly good. But she tends to do certain things that they were forced to do in Russian wushu. And so she's got movement. She's got specific movements burned into her brain, into the structure of her brain, neurological load, and she can't get rid of them unless we really slow it down. So if you're watching those videos, she's an incredible athlete, but there are little movement things that people will pick up when they're watching it. Yes, she is very much an IRL Red Sparrow. She also doesn't smile because Russians don't smile, which is absolutely hilarious. Yeah, and she's so fast. If you actually get her up to speed, you actually just can't even see her move. She was a single-edged sword, a Dao, which is like Chinese peasants' big sword, big knife champion. And so when she gets up to speed, it's ridiculous. You can't see the sword move. So when you train with people like that, you have to get really good at your fundamentals, right? Your blocks have to be super solid. But when you look at something like Kung Fu, what you are seeing is idealized human movement at one of its highest levels. It is designed for weapons on unlevel ground against unknown opponents moving at different speeds. So as much as I love MMA is awesome and you should do it, but MMA is somebody your own size and weight without armor on level ground with no weapons, right? When you get into armored combat fighting, you have a weight range, but now you have metal weapons and armor. But then you get into boo hurt, and now you have different numbers of opponents on each team with armor, with metal weapons, right? And the longer armored combat goes on, the more it's going to look like Kung Fu. It's just going to keep going and going and going. This martial arts keep reinventing themselves over and over and over again, but I tend to mine things like Kung Fu for stepping patterns and weight swinging patterns because it's one of the best, oldest versions that we can look at, which has maintained a high level for hundreds of years. So if we're going to look at what the human body should be doing, I tend to look to Kung Fu athletes because that is the most natural version of athleticism, fighting with weapons against unknown numbers of opponents on unlevel ground, and then moving that up to its highest level. I think that that's the base level of athleticism, and I'm going to talk about it forever. Final question. We've been doing this for nearly 2 hours now because I will talk forever because I am a nerd. Final question. Philly 33. What? There's a couple super chats. Okay, apparently we're going to do the super chats. Philly 33. Do you think it's a good idea to add some conventional lifts like deadlifts and bicep curls to club bell and kettlebell exercises? I don't see much need for bicep curls, but I people love them. There is one of the Arnold bicep curl limiters in here hanging on a wall somewhere. I never use it, but people like it. They use it a lot when you would see actors training for movies. I was training with this one actor at his gym in Scotland, everyday athlete, crazy awesome gym, Muay Thai plus a version of, it's not CrossFit, it's like insane endurance CrossFit. Can't remember what that style of training is called. But they would, do an hour and a half workout and then they would finish with curls. I saw that a lot on Wonder Woman. They called it curls for the girls. They would have a whole training cycle, and then at the end of it, they would have X number of bicep curls they had to do. I don't think it's necessary or a great idea if you're doing super heavy club swinging, because it can kind of interfere because it's meant to make that muscle as tired as possible, which tends to make people drop things. I also don't think it's a good idea if you do something like aerial circus arts, because once again, you're stressing the crap out of that ligament, which you're already stressing the crap out of. But I do think deadlifts are fun. Preferably, I'm not a barbell deadlift guy, but I am a hex bar deadlift guy. And occasionally I will be known to do a couple of sets of hex bar deadlifts. I'm actually considering throwing it into my training cycle right now. My training cycle right now is BJJ program 1, the mill squat program, and I'm going to rerun it because I'm getting the new Hestus clubs up to 70. So I'm going to rerun that program all the way up to 70 by the end of the year. I'm running, like today, single arm clean and press, followed by double kettlebell clean and press. And then my third day is my easy day. It's one of the body weight get up programs and 3 sets of 3 of hex bar deadlift. And we're turning that into the Batman deadlift because why not? If you're going to do it, make it awesome. Batman deadlift is where you take your hex bar deadlift and you stack up Olympic plates until the point where the handles are below the line of your feet, and you start in a rock bottom squat position like it's an Olympic position with your arms down. We call this the Batman deadlift, and just throw it in there for 3 sets of 3 just for fun, because training's supposed to be fun. So you can throw stuff like that in there. I don't make it a primary thing, but it's because I travel all the time. I'm never close to a barbell or a hex bar enough to turn it into a 6-month or year-long training cycle. So it just gets chucked in at certain points of training. Let's look for these super chats. Here's a super chat from SLDF Gunslinger Deck Squat Program coming in calendar year 2025. Yeah, why not? Yeah. So we've finished what I call phase 1. It only took us 4 years. But obviously phase 1 was stupid big. Phase 1 was TOI, ITK, swings, clean and press, TGU master. Now they're all being remastered. That's what I consider phase 1. And then phase 1 of club was mill squat, which is now BJJ program 1. Basis of strength, which is ridiculously large, and single arm. Phase 2 for kettlebells will be the squat program, which will be deck squat, goblet squat, front squat, snatch, and double metcon, which is mean, and single metcon, which is super mean. I did a bunch of testing on that late last year. And if anybody's a super nerd and really wants to know about how freaking nerdy this gets, we'll show you the board where it has 365 laid out single kettlebell metcon programs. Nobody cares about this stuff but me. And then phase 2 for clubs will be double heavy club and throwing pattern club. And all the body weight stuff that's out now is the phase 1 body weight stuff. That was body weight 101, Krav 1, Krav 2, Judo 1, prone 1, and screwing push-up. So we're going to get into phase 2 this year. So if anybody wants to give me some advice on which phase 2 we should focus on first, we shot deck squat I don't know if my editor likes it. I think it's beautiful. It's shot on a mountainside in the snow. So that one is mostly shot, just needs to be finished, edited. And then we did most of the shooting for double heavy club for the first phase of that, because of course it's going to have 2 phases because I'm crazy. Anything else, Ryan? Okay, rapid fire. Should you buy a heavier kettlebell or double up on what you have? You should have 2 competition adjustable kettlebells. I think you should get the Wildman ones. I think you should have 2 of those before you go heavier. That's just for pure safety alone. 2 competition Wildman kettlebells before you go into monster bells. Rapid fire. What is the difference between the 2 clean and press programs? So we had clean and press and clean and press reloaded. Clean and press is the pure clean and press math program, which is clean and press on a reverse ladder that goes up in weight with a waved cycle of intensity. Inside of clean and press, we have the Plateau Buster, which is the start, stop, clean and press. So most people get to a point where they hit a plateau. And what we want you to do is go down in weight and start on the start, stop, and then rebuild to break the plateau. Some people, we need to go even further than that to break plateaus. That's the reloaded program. There are 3 additional formats in there so that people can stretch out the weights that they have and get stronger and better for a very long period of time. We designed that program. That is the original idea of clean and press, and then Plateau Buster, start, stop, clean and press is what I used on movies with actors for years. The additional ones in Reloaded were designed during lockdown because people only had fixed weight bells and they couldn't get more. So we gave people more options to use the exact same equipment for so that they could continue to get better for a long, long, long time. So Reloaded is Plateau Busters if you didn't have more weights. Now we have more weights, so Reloaded becomes less important over time. But if you were a female supermodel or a ballerina and you didn't want to go up in weight, we would add complexity to it. If you are a triathlete and you don't want to go up in weight, you want to work on more endurance, then you would do the Reloaded program. Was there a second half to that question? If you want to do Simple and Sinister is swings and Turkish get-ups, famous program from Pavel. It's a swings. They did it up to 71 pounds. I would get a competition adjustable kettlebell and probably start at 20 to 22K to be safe. Now that you have competition adjustable bells, you don't have to make the choice. Like we used to have to pick, and you got a 24K, and that was all you could afford, and that's what you had for the next 5 years. Now, for the exact same amount of money, you can have every weight from 12 to 32.5K jumps. So the problem becomes, where do you start? I always tell people to start lower than they think that they should, because everybody overestimates what they can do. It just drop down in weight and run 2 extra cycles. You're going to live to be like 99 anyway. What's an extra 2 months to not get hurt? Getting hurt costs time and it costs money. Now that we have the weights, don't get hurt. Don't get hurt. So I would say drop down, start at 20 or 22 and just do 2 extra cycles to get up to 24. And then I would run clean and press 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. You got a year of training right there easily, and you're going to get great response out of it. Super chat from Paramus. Where did it show up? That's Ahmed. It's at the bottom, all the way at the bottom. Okay. Paramus. Thank you, Paramus. Super chat. TOI and club integration question. training for overweight and deconditioned individuals, designed for people who've been super injured or bedridden or who are much heavier than they would like to be, integrated with club. The integration club track is inside circle, outside circle, shield cast. After Paramus's next cycle, the fourth cycle, excellence, Paramus will be at 9 kilogram kettlebell and 10 poundish on the Adex. Should he go to 12 kilogram kettlebell and 15 pound club before going to club integration track? I think that you should go up. If you're on 9K, I think you should go up 1K. You can pick, but going 9K to 12K, that is 3K times 2.2 is a 6.6 pound jump, right? That's a fairly big jump. I would go to 11K if you want to jump higher. Smaller jumps better, right? If you're on training for overweight and deconditioned individuals, I vote small jumps and repeat the program to build up commitment, neurological dedication, learning to stick with a program, and going up. And you're on 9 kilogram now. I would go to 11. That's a 2K jump. That's 4.4 pounds. That's like a 5-pound jump in dumbbell. I would do it that way. And then I would just keep running that stuff up. So when you go to the club integration track, you're going to single arm club. I would drop that. If you're going to the club integration track, drop the weight on that back down because you're going to be checking elbow, shoulder, spine. Once again, I recommend people do more cycles and start with lower weights. You could even start with a lightweight and maybe bump it up 1.25 pounds with the Adex and then see where it is. It feels like it's not working and then go back down. More training is better. We used to have limits on equipment. We don't have limits on equipment anymore. The most important thing is succeeding and not getting hurt. So a 3K jump seems like a lot. I would go to at least a 2K jump and run it again, right? The goal is for you to get up towards 12K. Paramus. Is that a male name? I don't know. The goal would be to get up towards the 14K point and then jump to ITK. And then you go back down a little bit and you'd go to 12 and you would start it over again, right? And then you would go like 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and then you would jump to swing program. More steps is better. Not getting hurt is super important. As somebody who's been hurt and unable to walk at several points in my life, walking is good. Not getting hurt is good. More training is better. Consistent training is best. One last one. Super speed. Joe from Milwaukee. Okay, this is a question about the 6-day seminar coming up in Washington, hosted by Brian, who's been to a ton of staff seminars at this point. Guy's super hardcore. Should you focus on Summer's Mace training or my Mace training? Summer's teaching the Mace, so I would focus on Summer's Mace. Summer's Mace, I hate to say this, is mean. Everybody thinks that my part of the training is hard. I'm the nice coach. Nobody knows this. Summer is the mean coach. Summer's coaching, her programs are Mace, Metcon, in stance, 4 time, and she loves 90-30s. 90 seconds of work, 30 seconds of break, and her training is it's harder than mine for the most part because she puts in a full learn it round on clock before the actual Metcon. So if you're coming to that seminar, I would focus on Summer's Mace stuff, Steel Mace Vinyasa, and I would be running her Metcons. And you could run this if you wanted to as a separate second workout 5 days a week, 4 days a week. Pick a different one and run it. She's a fast, hard coach. And for my stuff, club training. Focus on mill squat. and focus on your single arm stuff. All of that will prepare you for staff. Nobody knows what they're getting into when they get into staff. Nobody fully understands what that is until they get there, and you will understand within the first 30 seconds. The best way to survive staff is to do lots of club training. The most important thing is that your wrist, your hand can survive your elbow, the traction on your shoulder, and your core. She has the stepping patterns. I have the heavy weights. When we put them together, we get staff training and it gets real spicy. The staff training will be the hardest part of that. Everything else is actually a break. The club stuff will actually be the easy part of that seminar. Think of the staff as the high intensity, the mace is the medium intensity, and the club as being the easy part in that seminar. And it rolls in cycles. Every hour it changes, and that is to give people breaks. Staff is crazy hard on the brain, so we jump, and the club actually becomes the slow part where we focus on technique. The mace is the Metcon, and it just keeps going over and over and over again. Good. Are we good? Okay, guys. Thanks, everybody, for coming today for this giant nerdy 2-hour and 13-minute long answer session. We will do more of this in the future. Get your Adex, get your kettlebell, train as much as you can. We're going to make some videos on Apocalypse Fitness and probably some videos on med kits and just things that you should generally own because we've been inspired to do that. Fire whips are fun. If that's how far you want to take your flow arts, right? Rope flow, fire whip. I vote fire whip. And we're gonna keep having phase 2 programs come out this year. Look at over the course of the next couple of months, all the phase 1 programs are going to get a little bit sexier, and we're going to find a better way to make that whole system work. Good. We good? All right. Thanks, Ryan. Bye, guys. I did not drink my